A historic day for the Denver Broncos as the Walton-Penner Family Ownership Group was unanimously approved as the next owners of the Denver Broncos by the rest of the league here in Minneapolis. Hello, I'm Phil Milani alongside Aric DiLalla. Aric, we finally got to hear from the Walton-Penner Family Ownership Group today. What were your takeaways from their press conference?
I think the main takeaway for me, Phil, was how excited they were for this moment, and that it wasn't just about owning any NFL franchise. It wasn't about owning any professional sports team. It was about the Denver Broncos. They've long awaited this opportunity. Rob Walton mentioned that as long as a decade ago, Greg Penner brought up that, hey, it would be great to own the Denver Broncos. They finally got that opportunity this year, and when the team was announced that it was going to be for sale, they jumped on that. They did not let it pass them by, and they were introduced today as the newest owners.
Yeah, definitely an exciting moment here. I think if you're a Denver Broncos fan, one thing that stood out to me was they said winning is still the number one priority. And, you know, they highlighted the fact that when you have a GM like George Paton, a new head coach like Nathaniel Hackett, and a quarterback like Russell Wilson, that's a good recipe for success.
Yeah, and of course that's what you want. You want winning to be the number one priority, and it's not just on the field, which they mentioned again and again that we want to see results. We think we have the team that can do it, particularly this year. But they also mentioned off the field. Kerry Walton-Penner mentioned being a leader in the community in Denver and around the league. I thought that that was something that you like to see because it continues the tradition that was set with the previous ownership group, and maybe you only improve on that going forward.
Aric, we had a chance to speak with some other NFL owners today. We also heard from NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell. He said that he thinks this group will be extraordinary owners in the NFL. What was just your general sense that the league seems pretty excited about welcoming in this family group?
Yeah, the league does seem excited. You know, outstanding was a word we heard from a couple of different owners. Talked to Jim Irsay, we talked to Jerry Jones, Stan Kroenke. I think the other common thread that I noticed was that Pat Bowlen, the Broncos' former owner, Hall of Fame owner, he was someone who was beloved to the owners in the NFL, and they said that Pat Bowlen would be glad to have the Walton-Penner Family Ownership Group take his place, thinks he'd be very proud of having them kind of follow in his footsteps.
And this group also brings in some diversity into this NFL ownership fraternity, I guess you would say. Melanie Hobson coming in, Condoleezza Rice. These are successful people in their fields, and that's something that we heard from NFL Network's Judy Battista.
Yep, that's right. Lewis Hamilton as well.
Yep.
All important there. And we heard Rob Walton at the very beginning of his press conference. He mentioned Judy Battista, who said that that's something the league wants to prioritize. But of course, Rob Walton said we think that diversity makes our ownership group better. We think that's how you run the best businesses is through a diverse leadership core. The Broncos certainly have that. We expect to hear more from them sooner rather than later. But here in Minneapolis, it was largely the Walton-Penner family that spoke.
Yeah, and they kept things pretty short and tight here in Minneapolis, but expected to hear much more from them here on Wednesday as they make their way to Denver and get formally introduced at the team's facility. So I'm sure there's a lot more that Broncos fans are eager to find out about this group as a transition gets made from Pat Bowlen to the Walton-Penner Family Ownership Group. From in Minneapolis, for Aric DiLalla, I'm Phil Milani.